So this session, I'm just going to hand over to Mikael. I'm going to talk mainly about automations in Google Workspace, predominantly with a third-party solution called Zenphi. But as Mikael will explain, there are lots of ways in which you can automate within the Workspace environment. So with that, I'd like to thank Mikael for offering to host this. And if any of you who are on the call now, or any of you who are watching from a recorded perspective would like to do a session, please just drop myself or Molly a message, and we'll arrange to get you scheduled. I think we've got January and February already allocated. We're hopefully going to have just a little bit of fun in December, just a bit of a get together as we do. And so with that, let me hand over to Mikael. So thank you very much, Mikael.
Well, thank you, Paul, and hi everyone. Yeah, well, it's good to see that most of the people here are the good old team. So I know the questions will be many and good, because when it comes to a topic like this, like automation, it's there's no one true answer to anything. It's all depending on your situation, your needs, and your size, because it looks very different if you are a company with 5,000 employees, or if you're basically just 12 people working crossover roles. So this thing of automation is all about removing those repetitive tasks, and I will also mention a little bit about the AI, the intelligence that you can add to automations, and the dangers connected to this, because AI is first of all quite stupid, so it loves to do things that make you happy, which means if you're asking a simple question to it, it will give you a pretty dumb answer. It looks good on the surface, but when you try to penetrate that answer, you realize there's nothing behind it. So grounding and foundation of all things that you do with AI is important. I use AI a lot in automation, so I've seen the most crazy results. Anyway, when you do automation in Google Workspace, we already know that we have AppScript, we have AppSheet, you can do things there. It lacks a bit dynamics though. So I mean, you can automate things from A, B, C, but then D doesn't want to be a D, it wants to be an F, and suddenly your automation won't work. So you need something that's a little bit more dynamic. You need some kind of smart apps to use it. And then there's a few available out there. And something I've been working very closely with for some time is an application called Zenphi, which is built for and built in the Google environment. So it's Google Workspace adapted. Now, it's not only for Google Workspace any longer, it was from the beginning. So today it also allows a mixed environment, so you can do certain things in Microsoft as well. So you can do changes in Microsoft Office package and files and things, which is necessary. That's just how things are. Now, me using Zenphi doesn't mean that Zenphi is the only thing that you can use, or what I say is only true for Zenphi, because that's not the case. You can go ahead and do a lot of automation using your favorite solutions, and there are quite a few available out there. The only difference here is that Zenphi is built for Google, so it comes with a lot of ready-made tools and ready-made connections that you recognize from get-go, and that's kind of neat. But you can do this in N8A, and you can make it in Make. You can do it in any of those applications, really honestly, if you allow access and you have the API access to those different tools. Some of them may need a little bit more tweaking, some less. And what I'm looking at is doing things with as little coding as possible. So I would like to have something I just open the toolbox and I start to drag and drop functions on my work, my background. So let's have a look at what I have here. I don't know if anyone has been using Zenphi so far, but if you haven't, this will be quite interesting. So let's jump on forward here then. So basically, quickly, this is what we're going to look at. And you are free to interrupt me at any point, ask questions. That's what we're here for. And if I don't have time to go through everything, it's fine. I mean, we're going to share this deck anyway with everyone, and you do what you want with it. But if you want to try this application out, it's also available for free trial. It's quite limited though in the free version. So first of all, the admin challenge, and don't ask me about the shares here, because the background here, I asked Gemini to create some fitting images, and they did some shares for me from the school, so I left them there because they make no sense whatsoever. So now, manual processes don't scale, and we all know what that means. So as long as you have 3 things you need to do every day, it's fine. You have 2 hands to do it, which means you do one thing, and then one thing. And next day is 6 things. Yeah, you can do 6 things too. You have to increase speed a little bit. And when you come to 12, you ask some friends to help you. But it doesn't scale, does it? I mean, you can't just press a button and it just grows. So when things repeat, we can get into a rut and do them. There is a danger, though. We get a little bit sleepwalker, right? And we do things, we think we do them exactly the same every time, but we are humans and we do small errors and small mistakes. And we also like to cut corners because that's simply how we are. So there is a problem here. It's like when we do things manually all the time, we create a sense of routine. And if there is an error, if there is a weakness in that routine, it will take time to work away with that routine. If anything is changed in terms of policy, in principle, how we're supposed to do things or regulations, that will also be a little bit of a problem for us to adapt to. We are quite prone to leave weaknesses behind in terms of data leaks and zombie accounts and stuff like that. So automation helps us to keep an eye on this. And of course, it's not fault safe, but the thing is, if you need to change something in your process for onboarding, for example, or offboarding, you can easily do that. You do it once, and it will then remember to do that every time. You don't need to change the way you're thinking. You can just change one of the things in your flow. And also the visibility gap. So it's very hard to track things, who shared what, because there is no really log anywhere. You have to manually log things if you're doing things. And in automation, you can make sure that is being logged automatically. So every single step that is that happens will then store something in your log file, which is a sheet or something where you have all the dates and things. And also, if you have an approval flow, so you basically have someone saying yes, go ahead, it will store who said yes, go ahead, and at what point that happened. And of course, if we are doing app script, well, you know yourself, we do something, we are really proud of it, it's really cool to build it. But 6 months later, we go back in and look in the app script and we go like, hang on a minute, what did I do here? And you start to go through and you have to recompile that in your mind to remember, oh, yeah, that's right, this is how it is, that's how it worked. So there's a bit of time loss. Now, God forbid you leave the company and someone else have to try to understand your app script. That's going to be a challenge as well. So having script, having codes laying around that is sorting out the problem for you is very, very useful, but it's not very useful for the company, and it doesn't scale either, because when you're trying to hand this over to someone else, you need to re-educate them on what you have been doing. So this is something that Zenphi wants to address, and all automation solution wants to address this. So basically, they have a visual builder, like most of them have today. They have a native integration, which means the hooks into directory, Drive, Gmail, etc., are quite deep. You also have Vault functionality, which is very neat. And you have enterprise grade on this, which means the same security standards that we are used to from the Google world. And it's also have AI power. And AI powered is not only in that it can use AI for the flow, it can actually use AI to help you build the flow. So certain design aspects of this, you can basically describe to the application, this is what I like to achieve, and it will then help you get started with those things. So that's quite neat. Basically the editor can be visible here to the right. We're going to look at it later. But what you do, you basically have triggers. So triggers is what sets off your automation. Same in any kind of automation application is that you have a trigger. So something happened, an event happened. Someone sent you an email, you sent a command, you press the button, something happened, and then it goes into some kind of action. And the action is what is going to result in some kind of final outcome. So there could be a create user, could be a copy a file, it could be update a sheet, etc. Right? But there are logic here too. So it will only do this if it's a Monday. It will only do it if it's 3 o'clock already. I mean, there's that logic here. So it doesn't just go ahead and do it. It will first sit down and think, okay, is it time to do it now? Is this the right user? Is this the right level? Is this the right object? So you can add those logic to the flow. And these are the same things that you normally think yourself. Okay, so I'm going to give this person access to the following directories, but is this an admin? Is this a manager? Okay, this is the manager. They should have access to the following directories. If they're not going to have it. So these are the questions that you ask yourself. So you already have a process in your mind, and you automate it. So everyone is seeing the change of screens. I must double check here. So are you seeing the zero touch onboarding now? Perfect, good. So now the idea with this is that you have onboarding routines, right? And so we have a trigger, and the trigger comes from the HR department, or there's a form submission. So onboard the following person. It will then create the identity. It will add that person to the different groups, or create group if necessary. It will then provision also the resources that are necessary for this one. It will give the user the necessary permissions, and it will also send communications to this person and people involved. So commonly what you do, you inform the coming manager that this is a new employee, this person has the following role, and please send that person a welcome email, and you provide a template to the manager so he can send out. So you have everything packaged and ready, right? And it shoots off every time a new person is coming into the organization. So everything is very standardized. Everything looks very much the same. As they are being onboarded, you will then provide this person with the signature and all those things in their email. So they don't have to sit themselves and copy paste some kind of HTML code to try to create a signature. Now, we also have the offboarding, which is very often more important. Because when we offboard people, we want to make sure that data is not being lost and is not being given away. So the first thing to do when we offboard is that we make sure there's an immediate suspension of the user. So the user is not having access to anything. And then we make sure that we have a transfer of data or archiving of data in such a way that we can access this in the future. So we don't lose access to whatever that person has been collecting in terms of intelligence for the company. And also, we have made sure that there is an auto response or delegation, depending on what kind of commitments are on this person's account. So auto response, basically, if someone is sending an email, get to know that person is no longer with the company, you are welcome to contact ABC. And delegation, of course, any meetings that has been around, that those meetings has been moved over to who is taking over the role from this person. So all this can then be done automatically, which makes this for a very, very painless. This doesn't have to be a person that leaves the company. It can also be someone, of course, that changes roles within the company. And you just make sure that they are no longer being bothered by a sales request, for example, when their job is something else in the future. And of course, security audits. And this is what it's all about, isn't it? To make sure that we always can follow up what happened. We can always see what happened, when it happened, why it happened. So you then have audits into everything that's going on, and we have access then to via API. We can then read Google Audit for all the different events that happens. And if something is being shared somewhere, we can block that. If something is being forwarded, for example, to their personal account, you can make sure there is a comment being sent over to IT, and you can have a look at it and see, okay, is this a fair file to share to yourself? If it's not, question it. You can also decide to block it first and then release it on approval. So that depends on how you set up this flow. And you also, of course, you can demote privileges depending on what happens. So you can make sure that anyone that's being given a temporary increased privilege, they can then be falling back to a standard user again after a certain time. So it depends on what you need to do, actually, really. The Google Audit Activity Trigger is a specific trigger, which is very, very configurable. So you set it up, and you then set it to listen to a specific event for one person, a group, or everyone. And you're going to make sure that it then flags, it logs, and it informs what happens every time it happens. It's a very neat tool. It's extremely popular. And then, of course, we have the Vault integration and the discovery. So we can make sure that we can then export things to Vault. and we can parse things in there to make sure that we have everything sorted and accessible to whoever needs it. And we can also make sure we can forward, for example, emails in EML files, and we can store them in long-term storage. So there are certain things that we can do with the automation. Otherwise, we have to do it manually and send commands and things. Here, you can just basically set the command, okay, this person is now in the following group, and as soon as you add that person to the group, that kicks off this flow, for example. Then we have something that we talked about a few months ago, and Google, of course, immediately said, okay, that's actually against policy to force people to do A or B. They have to be informed, and they have to do an informed decision. That's why they have the skip part. Now, the skip part is what annoys us because they keep skipping until being locked out of the account. So what we do instead now is that we prompt them, and we make sure that we give them our own prompts. So instead of having these very calm-looking page with a slightly gray skip choice, we can make everything in blasting red letters, warning them if they don't go ahead and approve, they will be locked out of the account, and it will cost them 2 hours of their day next week to just get back in again. I mean, we can change the messaging. We can make it more clear to them, because the problem right now is that when you are starting the two-factor verification with your users, many of them are not understanding why, and they are not complying to that minimum time set. So they just skip, and they keep logging in as usual until they have bypassed that time, and then it becomes your problem to try to reactivate them and bring them back in. So I have a new flow for that, but what we used to have before was basically we hid the Google's proposed screen, and we sent them our own path, but it's against the policy, so we shouldn't do that. So we have changed that system, but you can modulate this. You can make sure that it looks the way that you want, and that's quite important because we really want them to activate the two-factor verification. You can create approval workflows. This is a little bit beyond what you do on the IT side, but this can be interesting anyway, especially if you need people to be involved in the loop. So let's say, for example, that you have certain processes where you need to make 2 or 3 changes on user accounts, but before that happens, someone else needs to be involved in the loop and give you approval or some kind of thumbs go ahead. And you can do that here. You can use Google's built-in approval workflow, or you can use the application's workflow. You build your own workflow, approval workflow. So you can make sure that depending on certain circumstances, this person will be able to give thumbs, go ahead, or no, can't happen, or request more information. And you can then modulate it from this application. So that's quite a neat thing. And you don't have to wait for them to be available. You just make sure the email sends out, and it will automatically then remind them that they have a question they need to answer. And if you look even further from that, you can then go in and make sure that other flows in the operation are being automated, or at least get support from automation. So you can, for example, have data syncing, you can have automated reporting, and you can also do orchestration of applications, for example. That's a little bit more involved, but it's something that is very valuable for the operation. And if you need, for example, motivate the cost of the license for this application, that could be a good thing to mention to them, that it's not only for you, it's for everyone in the company. And then it's about picking the project. And this is a problem, because when you have an automation application, you feel like, okay, I want to automate everything. But I usually suggest do the low-hanging fruit first. So make sure that you have things that really are repetitive, that just happens every day, all the time, and that have a clear logic. So you don't have to sit there and guess. You know exactly what you would do in every single step here. So use them first. And also, they take a lot of time from you, right? Those are the first one that you go for. So don't take the things that look really cool with very many flows and involved logic. It looks cool to do. It takes a long time to build, and maybe the savings is not really that great compared to if you make something that's mainly contain 3-4 logic steps, and then it's a clear outcome. maybe that's going to save you more time in the overall because you have so many of those. So it's very important that you make the pick of the type of application that you want to automate. You do it first through these choices, and then you can do more and more advanced ones as you're getting more and more time on your hands to do these things. But start with the low-hanging fruits. Now we're going to look a little bit on the application, how it looks like. So I will log into Zenphi and let you in here, and I will show you how the build look like. So it's quite simple there. So let's see, share this one. And I will have to stop this because you can't see that screen here. So just a second, stop there. And then we go here.
You're just on mute, Mikael.
There we go. Thank you. So the spaces in this application are supposed to be for topics, and you can create your own spaces. You can create an empty space. I created a space for Workspace admin, since that's what we are doing. And when you do that, it then have a template, and it will then suggest the number of ready-made flows in that template, so it's ready to go. So I use this template. I already created it. So we go back to the template, and we see here I have created that one, and I have a number of flows already in that one. So if we look at them, we have then create a new Google group, employee offboarding, onboarding. You export users vault data, reset password request, and update email signature. So in this application, on the left side, I have different kind of dashboards. So I have the flows, I have tables, which are involved when you build flows, and I have AI models, which is about reading documents. And then I have different dashboards if I want to have feedback from a result in my flows. And maybe I want to have people invited to come and see, for example, how many of a certain process have been completed positively. Then you can have a dashboard for them. They can go in and look at it, even though they can't access your flows, they can't change anything. That can be useful. So, but we look at the flows. Here are my flows currently, and everything here is locked under this space. So in another space, they can't see my tables from this space. And that means you can have different departments working in different spaces. So if we then go in and look at an onboarding flow, how does it look like? So we edit the flow here. And here we can see how it looks like. So we just make that a little bit bigger. And basically, there is a form here. So this form is a Zenphi form, but it's very similar to the Google form. You can choose which one you want to use. And so basically, it just have a few things to fill out. So fill out the first, last name, email address, and a few information, roles, information, etc. There are some intelligence in the Zenphi form, which is not available in the Google form. So you can, for example, have values being fed into the form from other steps in the automation, which can't be done in a Google form, of course. Now, let's say we have sent off this one, then we have the flow starts. So when the flow starts, it then first of all is set the start date. What it do now is going to then pick the start date from the form. So basically, just click here in the chain. You will link data from a former step, previous step. I go to the previous step and I look at the form data, and then I have here start date. I click on start date, there selected. And then I want to have the format custom, and this is the format I want to have. And the output from this will be the result. And you can see later here where this is being used. And you can see it's being used to notify the manager. They're going to pick it up from there. So then we go to generate password, and it then generates the password. Here you set up how it's going to look like. You can do it here. You can create your own script to create the password, but it's quite convenient to do it here. And the output will then again be a result called password, and it's being used somewhere, but we don't know where. Then we create a user. So then we go into Google directory, and you need to give every single step here when it comes to these things a permission. So in this case, it has a permission using my account, but it could also be another account. So it depends if you have a dedicated user account for admin tasks, which have different privileges, then you can make sure that they are being set up here. So you can then make sure that not everyone have access to certain things. These permissions, they can be shared or they can be private. If they're private, only you and you logged in can use them for your flows. They will then be used in the flows for everyone using the flows. But when it comes to editing the flows, you're the only one that can apply them. Or they're shared. That means anyone that have access to this editing application to create flows can use that account. And that's kind of useful if you have, for example, certain things that needs to be created and you have a team of developers. They are building the flows, but you don't want to give them the password for certain things. You can give them access to the account. Anyway, so here we are creating the user. And basically everything that happens down here is the same as you would do manually when you create a user. And you can add you put the information we have that you want to have stored. And there's nothing special about this. It stores it, it creates the user. And then is the question, should it add it to group? And if you have now clicked in the form that should be added to group, this logic will then check if data groups does have a consent. And it says, except when that choice is null. So if it is null, it will not do it. But if it is not null, there's something in there, it will then go ahead and create. So that means when it's true, it will then split groups email. It will create a group, and it will say for each group, it will add a group. So if there are more than one group, it will add them to this group. And again, update email signature. It will generate email signature. If that has been requested in the form, it will then generate email signature. And the last thing it does is send an email to the manager where it says that this person has been. So first of all, this is the manager name. We are excited to have you join the team, etc., etc. Send out this to the manager, and they are now welcome into the company. So all this is just a single flow. It doesn't become more simple than this. And when you create things in this flow, you have a pamphlet on this side. So if I want to do something, for example, I want to add a for each item, I just pull it into the flow like this, drop it, and then I populate it how I want it here. So it's actually very easy to work with. And I think you recognize this from other automation applications if you ever worked with them. If you haven't, try this out because it is a lot more simple to work with than you would imagine. Just make sure you have a clear idea what you want to automate first, because otherwise you will sit with this and feeling pretty stuck. And now, if we look at the different flows that we have in this one, we go back to the flow list. I have the offboarding as well, and we just look very quickly how it looks like. So let's hide that side there. And now I have generate password, update user. Why am I doing this? Well, when you do offboarding of a user, the first thing you do is to make sure that you are locking them out, to make sure that you inactivate them. But at the same time, you will want to have access to this account for any follow-ups, right? Maybe this person will be admitted into the organization at a later point, for example. So maybe it's just a temporary lockout, maybe it's an external workforce, it could be anything like this. So that's the first thing that you just create those things here. Then you go down here and you suspend the user, transfer data, archive user, or actually delete user. So these are the choices you have here. And in this case, we have a default case, which means if none of the three there has been chosen, it will end up on the fourth leg, which can't happen, honestly, because it will always have one of those three, but it's still there. And that's good if you have for example, if people can write whatever they want and you are trying to figure it out, red, blue, or green, and they write white, it will end up in the right leg here. and then you update the requester that this person have now been deactivated or deleted or archived. So that's the offboarding, and you can add as much as you want to this function. So this is very simple, and then you can just populate with more and more actions that you want to have. And how to create a new Google group. If you look at that, quite common, people want to create a Google group. You can have a request form where people want to create a group. You just make sure they pass the manager. The manager looks at it and say, no, this is fine. Okay. He press approve. Then it goes into the approval and the group is being created. So no one has to sit down and create a group. It can all be created based on that form that's being read. So first of all, the form has been filled out. The form describes the email address, etc., etc. You can automatically create this email address. You don't have to ask the user to come up with a smart email address. Group name, group description, group owners, etc. And when that's been filled out and sent, it will then go to IT approval. The IT approval will then get a request. So first of all, you have who is going to get the request sent to them, and then you will have notification. The notification will be an email sent out that says your input is required. Basically, someone wants to create a group. Do you approve it? Do you approve it? If they are not responding in this within time, there will be a reminder email sent out saying you still have to approve this. And if it doesn't happen anyway, you set this expiry time yourself. It will then finally come a message that you don't have to answer this any longer because it has been removed. Let's hope it doesn't go to that. And then if it is approved, it will then go ahead and create this. If it hasn't been approved, it will then notify the requester and terminate the flow. If it has been approved, it will just continues down, it creates a group, and it will create the email for it. And then it will make sure that if there are specified members, he adds the members. And then it notifies the requester that the group has been created, and they are welcome to start working with it. So very simple. What many of these flows are missing that we normally want to have with flows are logs. So they don't actually log anything here. So all the flows are being logged in terms of the runs. So if you run it, it will log the information from that run. But that's not a permanent solution. You need to make sure that it logs the data where you want to have it. So if you have a document with your log activities, for example, it could be a sheet, it could be a text document, anything that you want. Log all the actions there and the outcome and who requested, who initiated, etc. But you probably have some policies how you want to store these things. So this was very quickly how it looks like inside the application. And like I said, other applications are similar. They have similar setup with icons to use. You put them together, etc. And this is just made to be, feel a little bit Google, but all of them have a similar fashion when it comes to editing, etc. So let's go back to the presentation. There. I just have to swap again. All right, there we are, and share. So the next step, of course, when it comes to these things is, where do I put AI in this? And I'm using AI all the time. All the customers are using AI all the time. But there are a number of things you need to keep in mind when you put in AI in these things, because it is something that's going to run by itself. And it's very easy to think that this is a fire and forget solution, but it isn't. You have to make sure that someone is involved, keeping an eye on things. We popularly call that human in the loop. And human in the loop is not just an expression, it's a very key function. So first of all, depending on what you're going to do, you have to consider, where is AI picking up its decision power? What is it based on? Is there bias involved? Extremely important, right? Typical place where this is being used is in job applications. So company AR department, they are using this in the job applications. So people are sending out their CV, and AI is reading the CV and making a first primary decision if this is a suitable candidate or not. And that's a difficult situation, because what if AI do not understand really that the experience he had from working in a certain branch, within a certain role, actually is transferable over to the role he's applying for. AI may say, no, this is not a good fit, even though it might have been a perfect fit. So it's important that whatever happens here is always someone that double checks this. So the time saving could be that you summarize the document and then someone is looking at it and they again approve AI's suggestion or disapprove. This is extremely important. Otherwise, and the companies are not doing this, and they absolutely must do this. But this is also true when you are doing onboarding and offboarding, etc. When you're asking people to create groups and things, make sure you keep an eye on what they're asking for, because otherwise you get some funny name groups and that you don't want either. So yeah, transparency. It's very important that we can explain to any user what happened, how it happened, and why it happened. When AI do things, we need to understand what AI is doing and based on what is doing it. And this is transparency. So we need to be able to tell, yeah, we had an AI droid that decided that this wasn't useful, and it did that based on the following facts, our policy. So you make sure you base anything that it decides on your policy, and that you have a well-written policy. Extremely important. And of course, keep monitoring all the time, because new things happen, new things pop up, and also some users, not all, but will try to use this. They will try to abuse this. And you need to keep an eye on the outcome, what kind of errors happens. When there's an error, make sure you really get an email sent to you and you read that email, so you understand why. But it's also there for you to be able to tune things. But AI will otherwise be extremely helpful here, because it helps your logic to become more dynamic. It's not cut A, B, C any longer. Now it can be A.2, B.3, etc. Because the choices are suddenly not just very black and white. You can have AI to give you a grading, and if it is 7.3, do this. If it's 7.2, do that. If it's not, if it's an odd number, do this. You couldn't do that before in the old logic system. So it's extremely useful, but be careful how you apply it. And then we have the thing with money, pay the bill. And when it comes to licensing and things, you always need to be able to motivate it. It's kind of easy to motivate automation. As long as you have repetitive tasks that can be replaced with automation, it's kind of easy. Now, this is for small companies. Small companies, they have normally about 45 minutes to an hour to spend to provision a new user. You can create an app script for this, but there's still going to be some steps there that won't be fully automatic. So it will cut it down to 18 minutes. So that's probably true. I haven't tried it myself, to be honest. But the automation will do this in 2 minutes. And that's just how it is. Now, a bigger company, they normally have 3-4 hours to get things done. It takes a long time because there is a lot of things involved. And in those situations, the app script, of course, will cut down a lot of that time, because they have certain processes that basically everything is machined. But again, if you then orchestrate those subscripts, because you can do that, and add the automation in between, you will be able to cut this down to a few minutes. And the value is very obvious, especially if you have a high turnover of people in the company. And yeah, this is from Zenphi themselves. So they have a free tier. And if you haven't played around with automation before, feel free to jump there and try it out. It's zenphi.com. And you can download it and you can install it. You have to give it certain access to your system, mind you. This is an Australian company, but everything is built on Google. But you have to give them access to your system to be able to use it. But if you are testing it out, try it for simple things and see how you like the interface. Do remember there are a lot of applications right now which you can use for automation. So you don't feel forced to use this for any reason whatsoever. But there are some templates there, and those templates will help you get started. So do have a look at those, how they are laid out, and how you would like to tweak them. And they have a community where people are suggesting solutions, and they ask each other, and quite active actually. And there you can get good ideas for how to do things. Often it's about formatting text and dates and things, but you know they really know what they're doing. And this application supports JavaScript, for example. So you can create your own code in JavaScript. Actually looks like TypeScript, to be honest. It's not pure JavaScript. it's an AI bot behind it. So you ask, I would like to create this. It will then give you a code suggestion, and then you can tweak that code. That's a powerful little thing within this flow automation because most haven't got it. And it gives you that added edge that you actually can make it do absolutely everything you want. And of course, the AI, so the API connectivity, you can connect to the application, you can connect from the application with the API. A very, very useful feature. And actually, that's the reason why I'm using it at all, because if it didn't have that ability, I wouldn't find it as useful as I do. All right, that was very quickly about that. Now, questions? So elaborate on the AI features the Zenphi provides. So yeah, basically, if I say like this, AI that you already have, so if you're using Gemini, for example, Zenphi will let you use that. So basically, you log in with your own AI API code, and it will let you use your Gemini AI. If you don't want to hassle around with that, there is built-in AI available inside Zenphi. But there are other AI bits. We don't really generally think about them as AI, but there are actually character recognition. There is extract of data from forms, etc. So if you have documents being fed into your email, Zenphi have support to be able to read those documents and format that data and bring out the information for you, which is actually also AI. So there are a number of those features as well within. So it's pretty wide, the AI application within Zenphi. I would say that the best thing is to just look at it, download it, and play around with it. But there are a number of features. Now, if you're using the built-in AI, you will have to pay for the AI resources there. And if you use your own, you will have to pay it there. So the AI will be charged somewhere. And I must say that the cost per document is not very bad at all within Zenphi. So if you have document extraction, for example, you can definitely use the built-in one. It's very easy to set up. It's very easy to format and train the model to make sure they can read the data for you. So that's an example of what they can do. And Alice, yes, it will be compatible with Google Workspace for nonprofits. It's actually any version of Google Workspace, it will be compatible.
Any further questions? Anybody is welcome to unmute themselves, and if you want to be polite, you can raise your hand, and we'll come around to you. If you don't want to be polite, you just shout, because now is the opportunity. There is no queue, so please feel free to ask any questions of Mikael.
So Alice, I can say that they have changed their pricing policy a couple of times during the last year. So I can't for sure saying the price there. 5 users, I can say that immediately. It doesn't matter how many users you have, the price is the same. So it depends on how many operations, how many automations flow you're going to run. So it's your volume that decides how much it will cost for you, which is a useful thing, because if you're not using it, it basically doesn't cost you anything. But if you need to use it a lot, that means you're also going to have a lot of savings. So if you have 5 users or 5,000 users, it doesn't matter. It's the same license price. So it's not an expensive thing.
Andy?
I can be polite and thank you. This is super cool. I was when you first started talking about this, I was like wondering whether this is sort of being sherlocked by Workspace flows, and I can see that this is clearly more substantial, and also this is more of an admin focus rather than an end user focus. But I was curious to know what thoughts there are about with Zenphi. Is there a flows integration? Are you thinking about custom steps for flows? Would you see something where you've got flows calling out to Zenphi or vice versa? So yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
I'm probably the wrong person to ask. I need to be inside Zenphi, which I am not any longer. But no, I don't actually see that. First of all, I don't see Google Flows to ever compete with an application as Zenphi, because like you already mentioned there, they are aiming for two different groups, really. Zenphi is definitely a business application. It's supposed to be for companies up to enterprise to solve proper automation and a quite complex situation, and for admins, IT admins, etc. While the Flow for Workspace, it's very much an end user application. They want to make it, I don't know if it's supposed to be fun, but they want to make some smart logic around your inbox. Really, that's as far as I mean, I'm one of the beta testers, and I am not really clear where Flow is supposed to go. But it's fun to play with, but it lacks a lot of tools and connectivity right now. And even if they are adding, I don't see they will ever let it communicate with such things as audit, for example, in Google Workspace. That's not the purpose of what they're doing.
Nobody else put their hand up. So, well, one question from me then. We see a lot of partners in this particular space working with customers and implementing custom code around app scripts and all those kind of things. And obviously, the partners are tying in those particular customers to them, and so they'll develop some code, and the maintenance of that code will be just part of a support service. Do you see any organizations going down that particular route with things like AppScript? Yeah, I saw your comparison there between Zenphi being a 2-minute task and custom scripts being 18 minutes or whatever from a user onboarding and offboarding perspective. But I believe that you could probably get to a situation where with a Google Sheet and some app scripts, you could emulate the user onboarding and user offboarding process, but the code itself would be fairly cumbersome to potentially maintain, and you would obviously have to have an expert on staff that understands that code. So, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, actually, the time estimate for the app script was with regards to development and maintenance. Because AppScript itself is lightning fast. I mean, it's really, I play with it all the time. I really like it. So it's not that. It's handover and also scaling. Make sure that you can make this grow within the organization. It's not always that your AppScript is going to be that dynamic 1 year in the future. Which means you're going to have to go in and do adjustment to it, which means that whoever built it will have to be available, or whoever is maintaining it have to be very much aware what's happening in these scripts. So there is that. It's a bit cumbersome to maintenance and to do developments and adjustment to it. But that being said, I don't actually see AppScript or any type of script being the problem. The problem is the orchestration of the different legs that you have to go through to complete an onboarding of a customer, for example, of an employee. So the idea is that you can for sure have those scripts that you have and just add them into a flow where you call on these scripts, feed the data, extract the outcome, and then keep on moving forward, right? So you don't have to replace them or anything. You can have them there because they may be doing things that is very, very complex to be doing from an automation perspective. Because when you do code, anyone that do coding know very well that it's kind of fast to write code, and it's going to do 43 different things, and I get the result out in two containers. To do that in an automation flow, there's going to be a lot of boxes and lines going on there, right? So before you come to that point, there's nothing stopping you from using your original app script in combination. What you win is the overview, the extreme overview of the flow, You can't beat that, because you look at the flow, you see immediately what's going on. You know where the logic is happening. You know why the logic is happening, etc. So there's a strength there. It's not that immediate when you're looking at code. I mean, when we open up the code and we have a 27-inch monitor, yeah, sure, I see what's going on, but I still have to go down there, right? I have to go in and read. Okay, where is it? Oh, it's picking that variable from up there. Okay, good. It's a lot more immediate in an automation flow, which means if someone else have to take my seat and sit down and look at what's going on, they will much quicker be up to date with what's going on and being able to do changes. So there's the big win. There is the big win. Because yeah, there's no beating code. Code is always cool. I mean, it's the winner in all cases, really.
Cool, thank you. Any further questions before we call this chat to its conclusion? A few more seconds. No. Excellent. Okay, so with that, thank you, Mikael, for stepping up and giving us a presentation from a automation perspective and highlighting Zenphi as one of those particular solutions. As you mentioned, there are lots of ways in which you can automate, and from my perspective, it was extremely useful to understand, you know, the things that you could do, especially like the document management element, where you could create a document based on, you know, someone joining an organization. A document then gets created specifically for them that gets approvals and all those kind of things. And you know, as a Zenphi kind of customer, I've seen those kind of functionality and features. So I think it's a product that's definitely worth looking at and considering. So with that, thank you all for attending. Don't forget, we have a special get together on the 11th of December. So hopefully that schedule, that the event will be arriving in your inbox. If it's not already there, it'll be there shortly. And so that only just leaves me to thank you all again for your time, and speak to you all on the next one. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.